Oh, you didn't know? It is the 2vement podcast. We are your hosts, Davey D and the Vengeful One.
Hello.
Yes, and today we have a very special guest, one of a kind, the very first lady we have blah blah. I'm sorry. What time is that? Okay, I'll edit that. No, I won't even edit it out because she laughed. We have the first lady of Punchline, Josa Alyce. Welcome to the show, Josa.
Hey, thank you guys for having me.
This is so awesome. When I pitched this idea to Vengeful, I was like, you know what? There are some ladies out there who play this game. There may not be many, but I think it is very prudent that we represent that demographic with a podcast. And I shot up a message on Facebook and you hopped all over it. So thank you so much for wanting to be a part of this.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. I mean, just like you said, it's pretty scarce out there for female players in the game. And I was like, I've got a pretty good face in the community and I have a passion for the game. And so why not,
Yeah, man. Awesome.
So why don't we start it off by, tell us a little bit about yourself. So who is Josa and what's she all about?
Oh, man. This is like my most dreaded question. I can't even lie about it because it's so stereotypical. It's like, okay, I'm 26 years old. I grew up in a small town in Montana and I'm currently residing in Georgia, and I'm a small business owner and I just live my life, I'm pretty unique in the fact that I like to do things like fishing or hunting or motorcycles, but I also enjoy typical female things like shopping and getting your nails done and whatever else. I'd like to think I'm unique in that way.
Would you consider yourself a tomboy?
Yeah, I would go with that for sure.
Okay. Is that the influence of your dad or having brothers or just being you?
I would say it's probably been this way my whole life, but definitely an influence of a family aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I was always that daddy girl, and my dad was the hunter, the fisher, the sarcastic one, the guy with the funny jokes, and mom was definitely the Southern Belle lady that you don't burp at the dinner table and you don't speak out of turn, et cetera, and clearly dad won. So
That's funny. That's funny. So did you get into wrestling with your dad, or was it another avenue that got you into that?
Honestly, I don't. Earliest memories of wrestling was probably when I was about 6 or 7 years old and just watching Steve Austin on TV and being totally mesmerized. And I'm like, man, this guy is the coolest. I love him so much. And I had a little action figure and everything. It's been a part of my life for pretty much as long as I could remember.
I guess you could identify with him with like his, what's it called, the bionic redneck that kind of rang a bell with you?
Yeah.
Okay. So what would you say was like some of your favorite memories? Were they like centered around Steve Austin, or were there like more nostalgic stuff that really grabbed you?
Just kind of nostalgic stuff, just watching all of the moves that they made and just the confidence that they had in the ring and their ability to beat anybody they wanted. I mean, you could be Mankind, you could be Steve Austin, you could be Sting, you could be whoever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was accepted, it was loved, it was just badass all around. And I'm like, I want to be that badass one day.
Yeah.
I think it's every kid that was like a wrestling fan's dream to grow up and just be out there.
Okay, so
that's absolutely true. I mean, I'm a little bit older, but nonetheless, like toward the end of the Legends era and certainly the new generation and then into the Attitude era, there's just something about these larger than life characters, especially back then when you kind of knew it was fake, but you didn't really You know?
You didn't
So
It
acknowledge
didn't
it.
matter
you didn't
if it
know
was
for sure.
fake.
It didn't. Yeah, it didn't even
Right.
matter. And because I remember, I think I must have been like 8 years old or something, and we were at a Hertz rent-a-car at the Denver airport, and uh, I remember there was like a feud between Earthquake and Tugboat, like they had
Hmm.
turned on each other or whatever, and Earthquake was managed by Jimmy Hart, and Tugboat was the good guy there, and but Jimmy Hart and Tugboat walked into this Hertz with us, and at first, like all I could think of was Tugboat is ginormous, and Jimmy Hart, who looks like this tiny manager on screen, is actually much taller than my dad. And when you're a kid, you're like, your dad's the biggest guy in the world, right?
Right,
And
right.
and I was so terrified because I thought, like, I've seen what he does to guys in the ring. He can squash them. Like, what will he do to me? And my dad's like, go say hi to them. Go say hi to them. I'm like, no, I was hiding behind it. But it's there's just definitely something magical about how larger than life some of these characters are, and I definitely had that feeling with Austin. Even though I was, Bret Hart's my favorite wrestler of all time, and as much as I as a kid, I didn't really like the fact that he ended up turning heel along with Austin's face turn, but at the same time, Austin was just so cool, and especially at that
Right.
point, I was becoming a teenager, so it was like really appealing. That kind of,
Of course.
you're not going to tell me what to do attitude and whatnot. Um, but I did want to ask you. So, like, my elementary school years were spent in an area that we didn't have many wrestling fans, so I was considered kind of weird for watching.
Mhm.
And I couldn't really talk to anybody about it. But though in high school, I moved to New York, things shifted because I had the Monday Night Wars, brought a ton of new fans in. Um, but I do remember kind of feeling isolated in my fandom in my early years. And I'm just
Right.
curious that if, especially as a female wrestling fan, is that something you might relate to?
Um, for me personally, where I grew up, I mean, like I said, I grew up in a very, very small town. Like my graduating class was 25 people.
Whoa.
So
Wow.
the cool thing was cool for everybody.
Everybody, right.
Everybody was into it. We all shared it. We all played together. It was the thing, and that's what it was. So for me, in that environment, um, it was very loved and praised, and everybody was into it. And we would practice moves outside and inside and get yelled at a lot, and it was great. But when I was 10 and we had actually moved to Oregon, it was an anomaly. Like, nobody was into it, nobody liked it, nobody talked about it. And so for me, when I walked into school on the first day wearing my Austin 316 shirt, I was like an alien.
Wow.
People are
Wow.
like, "Who are you? You're a girl wearing a boy's shirt." Like, what does that even mean? Is that making fun of the Bible? Whatever, whatever. Like, I got a lot of
Oh.
hate. Yeah, I got a ton of hate for just um, enjoying the community as a whole. And that continued on most of my life, actually, until I was in my 20s. And I kind of broke away from the friendships that I had, going, I can't really be myself around these people. And that's not something I'm comfortable with anymore. I want to just be me, and I will find people who will love me for that alone. And um, now I've got, an amazing group of friends that share the same love and passion for it. I mean, every single time there's a pay-per-view on, or a Monday or Tuesday night event or whatever, we're all together, we're talking, we're chatting on the side, we're just super, super into it. So in some aspects, I totally uh, get what you're putting down, and in other aspects, I don't, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. Definitely does.
Okay.
No.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, with that being said, I know you mentioned like Austin was your favorite. Were there any women in the Attitude Era that were like, your go-to female performer?
I would probably say it either had to be Trish or Lita for
I would
me.
agree.
Yeah.
Those were like the two, besides them. I would think the only ones that could really wrestle were probably like maybe Molly Holly, Ivory,
Yeah.
Jacqueline. You know, the others are
Yeah.
just like eye candy, but I really love them for their wrestling prowess.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
that's exactly why they were my favorite, is it wasn't just they were the cheerleader type that was there looking good. It was they were there to kick some freaking ass, man. And it was gonna be known.
Yeah. Did you follow like Mae Young and Moolah, or was it just strictly from the Attitude Era?
No, I never got into that kind of stuff. Just mostly attitude.
Okay, okay. When we look at what WWE is doing now, like actually pushing their female wrestlers as athletes, like they've completely dropped the title diva. They're superstars, basically putting them on the same level as the men. Um, for you, how do you perceive that in terms of comparing, I guess, WWE with other promotions, whether it being like New Japan or Lucha Underground, or I don't know if you follow any other promotions besides WWE, but how do you feel about their representation of female athletes within themselves and then comparatively to other promotions?
Personally, I am really, really digging what they're doing and pushing the women's division to be equal or, even above to kind of the men in that standard of getting them into Hell in a Cell match or
Yeah.
stuff like that. Just having women out there that aren't just mediocre wrestlers with a bang and bod that bring in male demographic to watch. That you turn on the TV and you see the kind of woman that you would see walking down the street, and I think that's great. And I
Mm,
also love the fact that they're actually bringing in women with skills. It
us.
isn't just, yeah, it isn't just, we're going to train you for 2 months and put you out there and whatever. It's these women are actually technically skilled and they could take down a man if they wanted to. They could take down anybody. And I love seeing that feels super, super empowering. So I just hope that they keep it up. And I think they're going in a super awesome direction in terms of the women's division. I personally think that they could add to it,
And
and I think that they could shine every single star that's back there because they're worth it. Not to say that somebody like Asuka isn't worth her salt. She definitely is, but watching the same thing over and over and the same two or three people having the matches, but you've got a locker room full of amazing female talent, to me it's a waste.
so you want to
Bring them all out,
you
you
would
know?
you would want to see like more cross brand matches? Is that what you're saying?
That would be awesome. Yeah, I mean, if they could start bringing people in from New Japan or
Yeah, they used to.
wherever and pull in some of that real raw talent
Yeah.
and bring it up and just do a mixture, that would be amazing.
Yeah, they used to do that back in the day. Sometimes Hulk Hogan would wrestle in Japan and stuff, but I don't know. I guess they're trying to keep their own little walled community. Um,
Well, I isn't Chris Jericho, I believe, doing stuff with New Japan at the moment, so
yeah. I don't think.
I mean,
Well, I don't think he's currently under contract with WWE. He's kind of like a free agentish type thing. So kind of,
yeah,
like a loophole-ish workaround, I would say. But
I
I
see.
would be all for it, man, because some of these women out here can really go. I love it.
And
Right,
kind of
right.
piggybacking on what you said about their talent level. I think again, like I said, Bret Hart was my favorite wrestler growing up, and I have this soft spot for technical wrestling and the storytelling that goes into it. And I thoroughly enjoy guys like AJ Styles and people that
Oh
know
yeah,
how to put on a match, and I despise these days watching guys like Roman Reigns because it's
it's
just
the same three
it's the
moves
same
every
the same
time.
three moves every time. Yeah, and
Yeah,
even growing up, I watched a lot of WCW during the Monday Night Wars rather than Raw, and I just
right.
remember enjoying like Chris Benoit and versus
Oh,
Dean Malenko.
yes.
Like those matches,
Mhm.
and then throw Rey Mysterio in there and Chris Jericho, and like any combination of those four guys was just technical prowess with some high flying ability, and it was just so much fun. And I
Right.
missed that in the men's division, but I see a lot more of it in the women's division these days, and that just it's so nice to see. And
Yeah.
you know, and even in a Hell in a Cell kind of match, just seeing the technical storytelling that was going on was such a breath of fresh air. And I feel like in some ways it, it's almost like they're filling in that void of the, you know, at least compared to what I remember. Maybe it's nostalgia, I don't know, a perceived lack of technical wrestling these days. They seem to be filling that void so well, and to me, like that's a huge reason for me to watch them perform, and it's so fun
Right.
to see.
And I mean, I agree with that statement like 100%.
Yeah, piggybacking on your prior statement about the women could probably beat anyone, any man, any female in the back. Are you opposed to like true intergender matches, like women fighting men, men fighting women?
Honestly, no.
Yeah.
I've never been against it. I mean, as long as it's not like Braun Strowman going against like Asuka or, you know, some
Yeah,
teeny
it's got to be
tiny girl, like
believable.
yeah, it's got to be a legitimate matchup. Like they did that match with Becky Lynch and no Chin, I can't remember his name. He was just
James
like the
Ellsworth.
manager for
Oh,
yeah, but
yeah.
something like that, like even though he's a scrawny man, whatever, it was still super super cool to me to watch a woman go out there and put in work against a man, and men are supposed to be the bigger, the better, the stamina, the muscle, the everything else, and just kind of watch her go in there and totally dominate. And if we could have intermixed matches like that, I'd be all for it. I mean, obviously, you'd probably have to put some stipulations to things because certain things, certain moves and certain maneuvers and things like that wouldn't be good for one gender or the other. But I think if it was a fair match, like I'm all for it. I think somebody like Charlotte or Asuka or Bailey or, you know, real technical wrestlers could hold their salt against um, a male wrestler.
Yeah, I think especially if the size differential is believable, you know,
Right,
like you said, not
right,
Braun, but you know, if you're talking even somebody like the size of maybe a Seth Rollins,
right. Or Finn
or
Balor
a Finn
or
Balor, yeah,
right,
or
Oh,
Bobby Roode, you know, where they're,
right.
you know, they're kind of yeah, in the same ballpark in a sense. And again, it's a more technical match. I think it would be great. That said, I'll take Nia Jax against anybody. That would be
Yeah, I
that
hear
would
you
be
there.
great.
I would definitely like. I
Can we have
totally.
her beat up Roman Reigns? I'd love to see
oh
that.
my God.
Oh my
That would be a
gosh!
good match.
Yes, yes, that would be amazing.
Oh my. Yeah.
I was so upset that she didn't beat Asuka. Like that just hurt me. I'm like, really? Like she's got all this talent, and she's just a monster. She's the brawn of the women's division, but
That's
she just
true.
can't do it. And I'm like rooting for her in the background. I'm like, come on, girl, you got
Yeah,
this. Like,
it's
let's
I
get it.
struggle with her because I can't, it's hard for me to believe that anybody can beat her. You know what I'm saying? Like she's
Right.
so much bigger and she's so talented. She's not just a laboring, you know, huge person. Like she's really good. And I as for the short time it lasted, the skits that they had with her and Enzo were like, wow, there's like personality behind her. She's not just like a mean looking face that they try to make every big person in WWE.
Right. Right.
But you know, it's just yeah, Asuka's an amazing technical wrestler, but again,
There's
Nia's
no
just
way.
so
Like,
big. Like,
how is
how
Nia
is that
not?
possible? Yeah, she should just
Yeah.
be dominating everybody every time. But
I mean, she
yeah,
should have had that belt months and months ago when it all started, when she came out and there was the big feud between her and Alexa Bliss and
hmm
her and Charlotte and her and everybody. I mean, this
yeah, she should
woman
have
is
just taken the belt and been like,
100% capable
she should have been like
of
the female Brock Lesnar of the, you know, and just
exactly. And I
take the
think that's a
title
part of the
and
reason why they don't give it to her is because it would be so hard for that title to turn around.
Yeah.
That is my honest
Yeah.
opinion, is
Oh
they
yeah. No,
want
definitely.
the title to change hand after hand. And just like Brock Lesnar, I don't even want to get there because that just makes me angry. But it would be extremely hard for any woman in the locker room to actually go up and take that title from her. And they want those big pay-per-view matches where it's gonna change hands, where it's gonna be an amazing show and not just totally one-sided dominated. And Nia Jax, in my personal opinion, has the power and the ability to be one-sided dominant. She could hold that belt for forever, like, in my opinion, if they actually let her do it.
And she'd be deserving of it too. It's not like just
Well,
'cause
yeah,
they cast her that
100%.
way.
Like, right, exactly. But I just think they're honestly just afraid that it would be kind of like a Brock Lesnar where the title would just not change hands. And, you know, it's not always what's best for business, I guess. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you think they're scared to put the belt on her for any other reasons besides what you've stated? Like maybe she's not marketable or something like that?
I mean, in my humble and personal opinion, I mean, the WWE's never had a woman of, how do I even say it without, sounding harsh, but they've always had supermodels.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, they've gone a little bit off the sides with like China and a few other female wrestlers, but she's not the fan favorite because she doesn't have the fake rack and she doesn't have the flat stomach and she isn't putting it all out there for everybody to see. And when most of your demographic is male wrestlers, or no, sorry, not male wrestlers, male fans,
Yeah.
you tend to follow suit because it makes the money. So when you bring in the hot cheerleader type, that brings in the money. And there's not as many women in this community that watch or that are fans or whatever, that would just be super into that. And I mean, she only fits a small category of what they're predominantly after. And I think that's really unfortunate because even though she is a bigger girl, I think she's absolutely gorgeous. I think that she's got everything that some of those cheerleader type women has, and she's really good in ring as well. And that's my personal opinion, is they don't push her because she isn't going to bring in that sex appeal that they've loved for their whole entire being. I mean, since day one, it's been that way.
Yeah, that's possible. But I also think that especially with the advent of all of these firsts, the Women's Royal Rumble and Hell in a Cell and or Elimination Chamber, like I would have to think at some point that's got to shift a little bit, where it's not just about the male demographic, because there hopefully will be a lot more female fans, and that too, and also more, dare I say, more intelligent fans that are really there for the enjoyment of the enjoyment of the product, and not so much because they want to just see somebody,
Right. And I mean, that would be my hope too, and that's why I love, that they're doing the matchups that they are, and they're putting them in those, like I said, male predominant places, but you still aren't seeing the odd woman out in those matchups. You're still seeing Sasha Banks and Alexa Bliss and all of the beautiful girls, the skinny girls being tossed around in a cage like that. I mean, if you were to put a true powerhouse in a position like that against someone like the Boss, what's going to happen? You know what I'm saying? The Boss is going to get freaking wrecked, man.
Destroyed.
And yeah, totally. So, you got to think about that too. Is they're trying to take the women's division and make it equal to the men's, but still not destroy it at the same time, because they do have a true powerhouse sitting in that locker room that could do a ton of damage. And it's, you know, kind of like, where do we go with this? But I also feel like they're holding back because she should be out there. They should have more women like her out there. It it should be a thing, but I do see it evolving to that one day. I mean, that would be ideal, and I definitely think they're on the right track for it.
She'll probably get her chance at Mania the way the storyline is shaping up. I hope they give it to her.
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, that would be worthwhile for sure.
Right. I would definitely.
And then I'm also curious how after the WrestleMania match, I wonder how they're going to use Ronda Rousey. Like, are they going to set her up like a Brock Lesnar?
I have a feeling.
I mean, it would make sense because they come from the same kind of background, and she's a legitimate badass.
Right.
Kind of like Brock is a legitimate badass, So it's like I could see that happening, but then who's going to be the one to dethrone her eventually? Or I don't know, but it's fascinating because so much of it is uncharted territory,
right.
So it's really interesting to see.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of chapters they have left to write. I mean, if I'm being honest here, I think it's going to be another Asuka train. It's going to be Asuka and Rousey to the death until Asuka loses that streak. And I think that they potentially could have brought Rousey in, not only just because she is a badass, but because she might be that one girl other than maybe like Nia to actually defeat that streak.
Yeah.
And put her down. But now it's almost like they're putting Asuka to set up to go to SmackDown. So I don't know. It's all up in the air for me at the moment.
I had a theory that I wonder if they would at some point unify the women's titles so you can have more variety in matchups.
I think there's already more women, like kind of what we were talking about earlier. There's more women that are deserving of airtime than they have titles and storylines for.
Right.
So
okay.
I think that would almost make it worse. I mean, granted, I think it would, just like if you did the same thing on the men's side, you'd have a better product because you'd have the best of the best. But in terms of there's such a huge company as a whole now compared to years ago that they have to split it in half just to give quality talent some airtime. It's not
right.
It's not 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Right. Well, and even then, like, they are trying to do things like that with the Mae Young Classic, just kind of like, to me, that's almost like the 205 Live of the division, where they put the women out there and everybody fights, and then eventually maybe we'll bring them up to NXT and then the main roster. So they are putting out there for the women, but there's still in my opinion, a severe lack of women being aired on the main show itself. I mean, watching NXT to me is more enjoyable than watching Raw or SmackDown, because you get more of those female matches. You get more of that technical wrestling. I mean,
I think a lot of people would say that's true for the men's side too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love watching almost every single match that I've watched on NXT has just been amazing. And it seems like, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that thought. I had a thought and then it ran away.
It happens a lot to me.
Yeah,
Well, we can come back to it, but why don't we switch gears a little bit to gaming? So gaming in general, obviously, is a fairly male-dominated activity, although I'd say, more balanced than it was when I was a much more hardcore gamer in the early 2000s and late 90s. But what's your experience as a female gamer been like that maybe male gamers wouldn't experience? Like we things that wouldn't come to our mind that could actually be part of what your experience with gaming has been.
In the community in and of itself, I mean, there's such a variety I mean, I get mad love from my faction constantly. I mean, everybody's, dude, you're a badass, you're amazing, blah blah blah. But then when it's come to other people, I'm a little girl, or I don't know anything because I'm a female, or you need to play like a man, or
What?
oh yeah, I got that one earlier today
What
actually.
does that even mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know. You tell me. I You're never going to be a top 20 leader because you're a little girl and you need to sit down and you can't handle it. And um I get crapped on a lot for being a lady gamer, and especially in this community. And then there's also, the the sexual side of it. I'm a decent looking female and I'm not gonna hide my face, but I'm constantly getting messages, oh, you're beautiful, oh, you're this, oh, you're that, blah blah blah. And I'm going, that's great. Like, thank you for the compliment, but I'm not here for compliments. I'm here to get down to business. Like, I'm here to feud
Right,
my ass off
right.
and take my team as far as I can take them. And I'm not interested in your side business. That's not something that I'm into, and that's something that I've ran into a lot in this game as well. And um, I feel very downplayed as a person, and especially as a female gamer, just because of my gender. I mean, honestly.
Wow, that sucks. I can't honestly imagine begin to comprehend what it's like to be a female, because I am very sure that I am blind to the amount of male privilege I have growing up in a misogynistic culture. Things that are very, um, how should I put it? You remember those 3D puzzles? I'm stumbling
Magic
up.
Eye.
Yes. Like, you can look at it and you don't see it, and then you have to stare really hard, and it's like, oh, there's a fish, there's a castle. You know what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
Yeah, as a guy, I am sure it's like that for me. I could be looking at something and not seeing it, but as a lady, because you're already attuned to it, there's so many discrepancies and disadvantages that are there for you. I can't imagine what it would be like to be told, like, oh, you need to sit down just because you don't have the same body parts as I have, so that makes you less than. And being
Right.
someone who was raised by a single mom, I know for a fact women are very strong, women are very intelligent, and in most cases, more than men. And I would be really interested to know, like, where the inception of females being less than came from, because I mean, there's so much that from a female perspective that can be offered, that can enhance life, can enhance relationships, because there's such a sensibility and an innate knowing that women have that um I think men, because of our bravado and our egos, we tend to overlook stuff and think, brute force and all this other kind of stuff. They say might is right. There's so much more that women can offer, and I think that we need to stop just seeing women as sexual objects, or shut up and sit down and stay in your place, and more of, okay, what can you offer me that I can't see, because I have only been programmed and fine tuned to see life this way and to experience life this way. What do you, the opposite equal sex, have to offer that I can learn from, that I can glean from, to make this overall experience better for everyone? You know? So
Right.
it just rubs me the wrong way consistently when I hear stuff like, oh, you run like a girl, you hit like a girl. Like, what does that even mean? Like, that immediately implicates a female is less than, and that is so not true. Like you say, there's so many female talent on the roster that can hand any male talent their butt on a platter. But
Right.
I'm sorry, I just went off on a tangent. I just don't, I
No,
just
you're good.
the whole, just because you are a lady, you're automatically discounted. That is silly to me. That is silly to me.
I I wish I could say that it's different, but it's been this way, forever. I mean, I'm not all gung-ho like blah blah blah, women are better than men. No, I just want to be treated as an equal to you. And instead of getting myself down about it, I'm out to prove a point. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
out to prove that I'm worth just as much as anybody else, any male, any female, any person. I have value and I bring something to the table. And if I didn't have that, I mean, we wouldn't climb the way that we did, and I wouldn't have the loyalty that I have, and I wouldn't have the love and the respect that I have. And so I've proven my worth and I've proven my salt, and I'm going to continue doing it until my time has run its course. And it's unfortunate that people doubt that, and it's unfortunate that people say otherwise, but I don't use that as an excuse to get down on myself. I make it a driving force to be better, play harder, learn more, and just genuinely go out there and kick ass. I mean, that's my goal.
Have there besides female wrestlers, have there been any women in the business that you look up to? Say like a Stephanie McMahon with her business acumen, a Sherry being an awesome manager, like Vicky Guerrero, I don't know, like
Not Vicky. That person knows me. I'm sorry, I can't get into that one.
excuse me.
Oh no. I can't even handle that right now.
Oh man.
Oh, I gotta be honest, not really. I really don't. I don't love Stephanie McMahon. I think she's kind of a pansy. Uh, I'm just being honest. Vicky bothered me. I mean, she just did, and I don't really remember there being any females in like a managerial type position that I go, oh, I got to be her. Like she's
That's
she's
interesting.
awesome.
That's interesting. Okay.
I mean, I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, like you said. I just figured with Stephanie being, I don't think Vince would give her that position if she wasn't qualified. I don't see him as a nepotism type because, like he said, he always does what's best for business. But if she doesn't resonate with you, that's completely understandable. I was just, thinking possibly, her being in a very male dominated sport and culture, it would have to take a measure of large fortitude just to survive to be a general manager or whatever position she has. Because even though she is the boss's daughter, I am sure there will be some men who will try to test her, to see if she's really worth her salt.
Right. And I mean, I give her credit 100% for, holding her own and being in the position that she is and being um as high up in the ladder as she is, no doubt. But I know that there's a huge cushion there, and she didn't have to fight for that spot like any other female would have to. I mean, and that's not to be indirect or rude to her. You can't help what you're born into. You can't.
True.
It is
True.
what it is. Just so for me personally, like she's just not somebody that I look up to. I mean, and the disrespect that she's shown to the women's division. One minute she comes out and says, we're going to take the women's division to the next level and it's going to be amazing. And then she turns around and slaps Ronda Rousey or gets into these different bickers and fights. And it's kind of like, are you going to pick a side here? Are you going to be with your women or are you going to be against them? Are you going to be the big boss or are you going to be cool with the team? Like, to me, she doesn't have a real set in foundation of what she's about and who she is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I'm following what you're saying. You're saying story-wise, she's inconsistent.
Yes.
Okay, but outside of this story, like the actual pushing of the women's division, you would say she was consistent? You would like her to be more consistent on both sides of the coin?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think she's heading in the right direction with it all, but I definitely think that the consistency needs to flow, and there needs to be a little bit less favoritism and things of that nature, obviously. But
Less favoritism would be a benefit in the men's division too.
Oh yeah, of course. If
Jeez.
we could get Roman Reigns and Brock down and bring up some other people, that would be great.
The weird thing is, I don't, another change topics, but like, I don't even mind Brock just because like he's accomplished other things outside, so I can
Right.
believe that he's that big of a badass. Um,
I hate that he
and
doesn't
we
show his
knew what he
face. He's
was
not
like when he was younger, what he was capable of. But with
right.
Reigns, it's like, can you show me a different move like from the last fight? Like just
Yeah.
one, please. And like, anyway, whatever. Sorry.
No, I'm
Clearly
with you
I'm
there.
sore about that guy, and favoritism in general. But so what do you enjoy the most about the game, about WWE Champions?
Um, well, at first, obviously, it was building my characters. It was, oh my gosh, I have this superstar and he's my favorite in real life, and I'm going to build him up and it's going to be amazing. And then, I got into a faction and I'm going, okay, this is pretty cool. I can get down with this. And now it's just, I probably spend more time in my day um, chatting with my faction and joking around and looking for ways to improve in feuds and whatnot that I don't even get my dailies done without like an hour to spare before the end of the day. So if I truly had to pick one thing, it would be them, honestly.
That's awesome. Yeah,
It would be
honestly,
that community.
I agree. Like the people in this game are the only reason why a lot of us, I think, are playing. For some of the conversations we've had on this podcast, it's been the faction element is the core of what keeps this game alive. And
Oh yeah.
Scopely's lucky they have that because without that, I think a lot of us have been gone a long time ago.
Facts.
Yeah, it would get pretty boring just constantly. Okay, I'm gonna swipe some gems. It's like Candy Crush. After a certain level, you're just done.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that.
But the human element and the community element definitely add the value to it, and just feuding in general. Like, it could be the most garbage feud for your lineup ever, but you're going to get so amped up about it because you're doing it as a team and you're seeing that number climb and you're just like, yes, like, let's do this, let's get it, and it's awesome. I just love it.
Okay. With in terms of leadership, how do you have other female co-leaders, or you delegate leadership to who is qualified for the job?
I am the only female ranked member.
Wow.
And well, and that's not an intentional thing by any means. Even up until recently, well, no, I take that back. We do have a female enforcer now. She's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't had many female members at all. I think for the longest time, it was myself and two other ladies. And at one point, one lady was an officer and she has her own personal life and stuff going on. So she stepped down, and then another lady's more personal stuff, so she stepped down, and so on and so forth. But I don't base it off of gender. I base it off of, who's here, who's helping, who's active, who's willing and ready to take us to the next level. And for me, it's not gender based. It's not this man is better than this woman. It's we haven't had the female bodies in the faction to even really give the position to in the first place. And then on top of that, it's, are you going to uphold the standards that I have when you earn that rank? And so that's what it is for me. I mean, we've got a ton of new women that just recently joined our faction, and I'm absolutely loving that they're there, and they're definitely worth every rank that there is. I mean, I can't even lie about that. They're awesome. And I'm super, super excited that they're there. It feels pretty good.
Man, so with your faction, what is it like your faction philosophy and goals? Do you take a different, I don't know if you were in a faction before creating your own. Like, what do you do differently that male ran factions don't do that make you different, that make you something that people don't want to be a part of?
Um, I mean, I've only really truly been in one other active faction, and the faction that we currently have is kind of a breakaway from that
Okay.
other faction. But just from what I've gathered from all of the members that we've got is that we're insanely positive.
Hmm.
After every single feud, I go in there and I give a big cheerleader speech. And I'm constantly popping in, hey guys, you're doing awesome, and so on and so forth. And we really, really keep that family vibe alive where everybody kind of knows everybody and everybody jokes, everybody laughs, everybody is just super positive, and we have a very, very high energy. And from what I've gathered from what others have told me is we're the best faction around just because of that. We're not demeaning. We're not looking at things that we shouldn't be prodding on. We're not insulting in certain ways. We're not just all about making sex jokes or um, crude humor, or we're not 100%. We only feud focus. This is our entire lives. Like if you don't hit that 2 mil, 100% you're out. Like we
Right.
have a very, very, very solid basis of both, best of both worlds. And I think that's what kind of makes us who we are. I mean, we're family first and feuding right alongside of it, and it's pretty awesome.
I like that family first and feuding right alongside of it. What are what do your famous pep talks after feuding look like? Like if somebody did really terribly, like how would you build them back up to encourage them to feud next time and not think like, I'm a liability, why am I even here type thing?
Um, well, I always put something out along the lines of, "Hey guys, you kicked ass. I'm so proud of you. Like we've done nothing but climb." So for me, every single time we climb, it's just a bigger and bigger, more excited speech, all caps locks. Like I go all out with it. I'm like, "Yeah, you rock!" Like, um, but in terms of members that aren't cutting the salt or they feel that they aren't, um, I'll give this last feud as an example. We had a member that was actually in our sister faction. He's been a very, very long time member with us. And we had brought him up to Punchline, and, you know, he was feuding his heart out. I mean, he was running 2-star silvers. The guy was just getting demolished, whatever. But he had hit that minimum and he was so worried. I did horrible and I'm so sorry and blah blah blah. And I go, Pa, like you you got it, man. You freaking rocked it. Like even with your crappy lineup, you still sat there. You put in the time and the effort that it took. And I saw that. I noticed that. I saw you communicating. I saw you reaching out when you needed a hand. I mean, you're not going anywhere.
I love
It's
that.
to me, yeah, like it's score based, but if you're on the ball and you're truly sitting there and showing, hey, like I need help or I'm communicating or I'm reaching out or whatever, to me, that's worth more than whatever score that you're putting up. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, if you're going in and doing 1 or 2 feuds and you've got absolutely no reason as to why you got that score, then we need to have a separate side talk. But if I see that you're putting your heart and soul into it and you're so afraid that you came up short, I'm not going to fault you for that.
Yeah, and I think people also forget that. I mean, not that we're a active feuding faction by any means. We're not. We, you're like, if you only go in and do 2 brawls, like, yeah, that's me every time. But but that's our faction culture is we're active casual. So we don't really feud heavily, but I think what people lose sight of is it's not about how dominant your roster is or your feud roster is or that sort of thing. It's
Right.
consistency. Like what's the point of having, let's say, 4 teams of 3-star gold characters and then you can't get the 5th spot filled because nobody's active, right? So
Yeah.
Right.
if you even have like your 2-star silver lineup and you come in there, you know, take on whoever you can, but you're keeping the queue going. That's
Yeah.
even more important. Like there's a role for everybody, and I think it's just the important thing is just being clear about what the expectations are and what the culture of the faction is.
Right.
Yeah.
So kind of
Most definitely.
piggybacking on you know, the philosophy and goals, but I would say, you know, if you were to define your culture, and I know you talked about it a little bit in terms of you know, family first, but what was the thought process behind setting it up that way?
Um, Honestly, I mean, that's just something that has carried over from the previous faction that I was in. It was always that sort of family environment. We were always communicative. We were always, okay, you've got a life. You're a person behind a screen. You have a job, you have a vacation, you have a brand new baby, you have whatever, but you also have a serious passion for this game. So that's always just kind of carried with us. It didn't start with me, and it's just something that I've carried on, and it's stayed very, very well intact through Punchline. And I couldn't tell you where it started. It just did. It's just always been there. It's always been that way. I think it all starts with a hello. I mean, when somebody enters our faction, the first thing that we do is welcome them in. And that's something that I've never seen from another faction. And just right off the bat, we're instantly family. We're instantly friendly. We're good people.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Like ultimately, you know, and I'm as rational thinking person as you'll find, but ultimately we make the micro decisions off of emotion.
Right.
And you can't underestimate how much of an impact that welcoming of a new faction member has, just to help them feel at home
Mm.
on
Right.
every emotion and then decision that they make from there on out. I think in our culture now, unfortunately, you know, we're so able to connect with people through our phones and our computers and everything in a way that has never been possible throughout human history. And yet we are at a severe lack of community and connection with other people. And,
Right.
you know, especially through a digital medium like Discord or whatever you choose to use, um, you have to go the extra mile to help somebody feel connected when they can't see you, they can't, you know, hear your tone of voice, you can't shake their hand and feel the sincerity through it. It's so it takes that intentionality, and it's just nice to hear that there are other factions that do that too, because I think it's, and it would make sense, right? If a lot of us have stayed playing the game because of the people that we play with, then
Right.
you know, I think there's probably a few like that. But that said, again, to be able to balance that with a competitive side, I think is a fine line. And it's cool that you're able to balance that. We took the approach of, you know, we're just not gonna do the competitive side because we'll just attract the people that are up to, you know, other things and you know, have those other considerations in life that maybe they can't spend a weekend really going hard at it and at least consistently, you know, from feud to feud. So we'll just be a home for them. You know, that's
Right.
kind of the
Yeah.
approach that we took with it. But nonetheless, it's
Hey, I
still about
mean,
community. It's
if
still
that's
about,
for you, that's for you.
yeah, yeah. I mean, trust me, I'd love to be more competitive, but just priorities, I guess.
Yeah, I hear you.
Where did you get the cool name Punchline from? I just love that name.
Actually, I it was random. When we had kind of broke away from Punchy Dukes, myself and our ex leader were just talking. We're like, well, we got to find a name, figure out a name for this. threw some random names out there, and I said, okay, I really like Punchline. And that's how it started. I mean, there was literally no rhyme or reason. It just sounded cool.
It really does.
Pathetic, right? I mean, it's super lame, but it works.
So, are you guys aiming to be like top 10 number one feuding faction, or is it just like you said, family first, and then wherever you land in feuding, that's fine?
I mean, honestly, I would love to keep driving forward. If we can just keep pushing up and up and up and still keep that family feeling alive, great. I mean, let's be real. It's gonna take a lot of work to ever go in and beat guys like Execution or Grim Reapers or whatever. But I would love to see us stay in like a top 20, a top 10, and consistently stay there and still keep that feel that we've got going on. I mean, we're pretty good about keeping the jokes and the family stuff on the side, and then once feud time hits, we're ready to go. We're aimed, we're focused, and we're going to fire away. And if we can keep that up and just continuously keep teaching and working with our players and working on communication, I have no doubt that we'll be up there and we'll be able to maintain. And I mean, it would be great to get up to Execution's level, but
yeah,
I mean, I'm personally not expecting it, but I do expect us to be top 20 or top 10 even one day. That would be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, with your work ethic, it is very possible. Speaking from earlier when I said, like, as women, you're not less than, you have a different perspective that men may not even begin to think to perceive. What features in the game have you thought of that nobody else has even mentioned or brought up that you think would be, an aha moment, an eye opener, an awesome feature?
Well, obviously, everybody wants the 0-time glitch gone, and they want trading, and I think that would be like number one up there. But for me personally, I'm a very organized person. It's just the way that my brain works is I like being organized. I have 100 chats, so that way I know to go to this one, and this one. And when I'm scrolling through my roster and I've got 2 Seth Rollins, but one is NXT and one is Undisputed or whatever, it just irks me. So my thought was, how they have the gear for like Andre or Dolph Ziggler or whatever.
Oh, I see where you're going.
You could, if you could have the one superstar and then just click on him, select the gear that you want, and then it could like equip the moves that go with that gear.
Genius.
Like he's trickster or acrobat or whatever. It would be so much easier than having to scroll, and all your different superstars are in different places. So you're accidentally selecting the wrong one when you're going up into a match. And
I hate when that happens.
Exactly. And you can just sit there, right? And you can just sit there and select which one you want just by changing the gear out.
I would have never thought of that.
Useful way of using gear. That's for sure.
Right.
Feature, that is.
Wow.
But that was kind of my thought. It was just something to keep the organization up, as well as keep the scrolling at a minimum and keep things kind of in a proper place, for lack of a better term.
I mean, I can sort of understand if it's kind of different eras, like if a certain superstar is legitimately a different character out of a different era, at different eras.
Right.
Even something like Legends era Macho Man versus the WCW Attitude Era Macho Man. Like I can even accept that. What I really hate is, why do we have 2 Kevin Owens and 2 Bray Wyatts?
Yeah.
Like New Face of America was like, how, just a few months and they made a new character for him? Like that's a gear. That is a gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's really annoying to me.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. That's the part that bothers me, is they're putting out these new characters for players that have been that way for 30 seconds. It's just like, this is stupid and I don't like it.
Yeah, no, but you know what? That's more characters means more pulls, and pulls means more money, so that'll never change.
That's what it is.
Of course, it's all about that money. I don't disagree with you there. But I mean,
Yeah.
they could charge for the gear if they really wanted to.
Yeah,
If
we
they
could do
really
gear
wanted to
pulls
sit
and
there and say, okay, you're an organized person like myself, I would probably buy into that gear because it makes my head crazy doing all this organization. And I'm like, okay, I'll pay the $20 or whatever to sit there and have this gear for this person. That doesn't bother me.
yeah, I guess that does make sense.
I'm just there's a market out there for it, and I'm one of them.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, and they even have the ability to, modify attributes. Now, I guess not moves, but it's at least from a damage and MP kind of standpoint. But I just wish there was more with gear in general. I thought it was a good concept that just like where's the
faded
vision?
out.
It's gone. There's no
Yeah.
point to it. It's just sad.
And now I'm stuck with hangers in my stinking
Yeah.
loot thingy, and I'm like, really? I've got so much stuff here, and we're never going to be able to turn it in. That's another thing. I would love to trade in all that extra stuff for like a new superstar or something. That would be
Anything.
cool.
Like, I mean, let me turn in like 100 Big Show TP for even like 10 purple. Like, I'll take that.
I will take
it's something.
1 coin per Big Show TP that I send in, and I would be pretty coin rich at that.
1 coin, yeah. No kidding. Like, just anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, or all those old pay-per-view t-shirts. Like, the inventory actually takes a while to load now because there's so much shit in there. It's
right.
Unbelievable.
I was so upset. I had elimination shirts ready to go, and what did they do? They didn't bring them back, and we were told, "Oh yeah, every year that something happens, you'll get teased." And I'm going, "Okay."
I never believed.
I was hoping.
Yeah,
I think that's.
Just watch, like, this year when they come, we get the zombies back. It won't be brains. It'll be like, I don't know,
guts or something.
Guts or something. Yeah. Because again,
or not even zombies at all.
Yeah, well, actually, that'd be nice too.
Right.
So we got to wrap this up soon, but I did want to ask you one question, and this is kind of hypothetical, but we do know that the women's division is coming to WWE Champion, but we don't know in what format. We don't know how it's going to happen. Yeah, they have confirmed that they are working on it. Now, suppose they maintain the 6 classes that we're used to. If it was solely up to you and you were the character designer and you're looking at all the women wrestlers across all the eras, who would you pick to be the top tier character of each class?
Oh, that's a hard question to add. I don't know. I mean, obviously, as discussed before, I would probably pick Naya as a powerhouse or potentially China. And then for technician, I would probably have to go with, I don't even know. There's so many.
Charlotte?
Oh, to me, Charlotte's more of a trickster.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I would put Charlotte in like that trickster or showboat category. And then probably Alexa Bliss would definitely be a solid showboat. And someone like Becky Lynch would make a good technician, in my opinion. And Asuka as a striker. And trying to think, a good acrobat. Oh, that's one I haven't thought about. Maybe like Bailey? Or Naomi's a decent acrobat.
I would say Naomi's a good option there.
Yeah. I think that would make a pretty solid 6 to start.
I'm really curious how they're gonna do it.
I hope. Well, part of me is like, I hope that they have their own separate section of like the road and like a Dean's Daily type deal. But then a part of me is like, it would be really, really funny to watch like Alexa Bliss beat Braun Strowman in a limited time tour or something. And I'm just like, this is hilarious.
Yeah, I'm always a little wary of adding too much extra? Because like we all want hell mode, but what if, you know, let's say on the SmackDown tour, there's normal, hard, and hell, and now all of a sudden, you know, what's 14 matches is 21 matches, and it's the same thing every week. Like, I
Right.
think I'd probably tire out of the game and quit at that point, because it's like,
Yeah.
you gotta. I like what they did about, you know, shortening Dean's Daily and making it, you know, like just get in, get out, get your daily stuff done. I'd like the special limited tours to be a little longer. I like that idea, but I'm getting tired of you know, the daily class tours being so long. Like, just make those 6 matches too, especially when you're gonna add another 3 of them when hell mode comes around. So like, if there
Right.
was, let's say, a women's tour as well, there's just too much to catch up on. Like, it just takes too many hours out of the day to play. And
Well, what if you could even like take those regular daily tours and cut them in half? You have the first section on easy, because obviously I doubt these women are going to come out and they're going to be, you know, 3-star golds or whatever.
right.
You make easy mode the women's section, and then you turn around and with hell mode it's the men's section. You keep the same amount of matches, just the 2 different genders. Or even split half and half. One match is female, and another is male, so on and so forth. You know what I'm saying?
You could also
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
possibly alternate nodes, like normal, one guy, one female, one, you know, just like that.
Right.
That makes sense too.
Hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
that would make sense as well.
It's dope, man. This are there any final thoughts? This was a very enjoyable podcast.
Well, I'm glad you had fun. I did as well. I don't really have any final thoughts. I've just enjoyed chatting with you guys. I was like insanely nervous messaging everybody. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. Da 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 da. But it's been 100% awesome, and I appreciate you all letting me speak freely and speak from the heart and just put out there what I had to say.
If anything, I think me flubbing the intro made you at home. Like, if the host messed up, then there's nothing you could do. It's
Yeah,
all.
no, I mean, it's only like it's not like he's done, you know, 9 podcasts already.
Well, that's probably true. That did help a little bit. It broke the ice, you know.
Awesome, man. Well, oh, is there any way, any information you want to give out if people want to be recruited to your faction?
I mean, right now we're pretty well full up, but you know, we're always looking for new, and we have to make the unfortunate cuts. We do require a 100K roster and a minimum feud of like 1.5 mil, and either line app or Facebook chat. We've got some members that are in different countries that just can't use line app, so we do have that as an option. But that's about it. Just be family oriented, be awesome, and check us out. I mean, we're pretty great.
Okay, and how would they find you online or Facebook?
Line app is just my game name, Josa Alyce, and Facebook Punchline Family. They can hit us up there too.
Awesome. Any final thoughts, Vengeful, before I sign this off?
I think we can sign this off. This has been really enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've enjoyed myself as well. Thank you guys.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Why don't you sign us off? You're the first lady. Why don't you do a first and sign off the podcast?
How do I do that?
you just say goodbye.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening, and I hope you have a great one.
All right. Bye.
So over and out. Bye.